The first G7, as you know, was held in 1975 in France, and it was called because there was a crisis. There was an economic crisis following the oil crisis of the 70s. But since then, it has evolved to discuss issues relating to peace, to security, and to the environment, climate change. Yeah? And the fact that it's felt important to actually include leading African countries in this discussion. As you may have heard, the countries that are invited are really, the outreach countries are African countries. It tells you that Africa needs to be around the table, involved in this discussion, engaged in the conversation, and able to put its own view across. I think the choice of the city of Amina is very, very significant. It tells you that it's about the linkage between the developed countries and developing countries, because this is really on the Mediterranean, and as you know, on the other side of the Mediterranean is Africa. So yes, for Kenya it's critically important that we've been recognized as one of the countries, right, that should be around the table, should be included in this discussion. And we think it's a great honor and prestige and privilege to be around the table. We also know that it's a huge responsibility because we are one of the few African countries that have been invited to contribute. But the knowledge that if you're talking innovation, if you're talking peace and security, if you're talking economic growth, if you're talking about the youth, that the country to actually have this conversation with this Kenya, I think is clear to everybody. And this is not the only conversation that we've been involved in. We went to the Road and Belt in China, as you know. We've been invited to the G20 in Berlin in June. So we're becoming, I think, part of the global conversation, if you like. And of course, we're happy about that. We've worked very, very hard to be where we are now. The president has invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, because again, if you're not part of the conversation, then you are the conversation, right? You're the subject of conversation, and I think it's a good thing that we're not. We're at the forefront of innovation. I mean, it's not for nothing that we're called the Silicon Savannah. We're at the forefront, and we have our youth to thank, for that. And it's not just about M-Pesa, although that is really the most significant innovation that has come out of Kenya. But you have M-Farm, you have the Huduma centers, as you said, you have e-government, we have M-Shwari, M-Farm. So, I mean, I think it's an almost endless list of new apps, new innovations that are being created, here in Kenya, right? And that have received, if you like, global recognition. And in fact, in many countries now, they look to Kenya and to Kenyan youth to help drive innovation. So we're happy. We're happy that we're here. We're happy that we're part of the conversation. We're happy that we're around the table, right? Well, apart from the bilateral issues that we have with these countries, Japan is one of the biggest investors that we have. The other country, Italy, is a big investor into our economy. The US is a big investor as well into the economy, and obviously we have a lot of issues we are discussing. But regional peace and security, I think, is going to be one of the big issues. Because again, Amina, you think of Amina and you think of migration, you think of Sicily and you think of migration, right? And so that's one of the topics, obviously, that will be part of the agenda, right? And and we'll be talking about solutions to the migration crisis and how we think that you can slowly start stemming the flow of migration. It can't be done, at one go, but I think gradually, with the right kind of measures put in place, the right kind of mechanisms, incentives, right? I think it's possible, and investments, of course.